What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to some more Bible reading. This time, we are getting into Exodus 2. So, last time, essentially, we established that the Israelites lived in Egypt for a while, long enough for a few generations to pass away, at least. Certainly, Joseph and, his whole family, and also the Pharaoh that knew Joseph and his family. And so because there were so many Israelites living in Egypt, the new Pharaoh was like, I don't trust these guys. And made life hard on them, and also developed a plot to kill off any newborn sons to try and tamper down their numbers. So, that's where we come in to this chapter. So, I guess we'll get right to it. Exodus 2. About this time, a man and woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. The baby's sister then stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to him. Okay, so that's probably going to sound vaguely familiar if you've ever watched the Prince of Egypt movie. But in any case, I'm curious what exactly she thought was special about this baby. But oh well. The knowledge thereof could have come from God, or, something somehow apparently made it obvious to her. But sending a baby off in the Nile River, that doesn't exactly seem like... I mean, sure, that'll get it away from Egypt, but is that necessarily gonna send the baby somewhere safe? Let's read on. Verse 5. Soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrew children, she said. So, I'm just now realizing, it doesn't even say that, she thought there was a person in the basket when she asked for it to be retrieved. She might have just thought there were some valuables or something else in the basket, but in any case, Pharaoh's daughter was like, there's a basket out there. I wonder what it's doing there. Hey, somebody go check that out. So, anyway, then she opens it and realizes that it's a Hebrew child. Anyway, verse 7. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? She asked. Yes, do, the princess replied. So the girl went and called the baby's mother. Take this baby and nurse him for me, the princess told the baby's mother. I will pay you for your help. So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. Later, when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The princess named him Moses, for she explained, I lifted him out of the water. So, baby sister was already there. Like, I guess the whole thing is just that the princess liked the baby and wanted to take care of it, even though, you know, her presumably her father, the king of Egypt, the pharaoh of the time, had directly said for baby boys to be killed, baby Hebrew boys to be killed. It's not clear what the motivation was or why she wanted him to, you know, stay alive and be taken care of. But, I mean, whatever the reason was, that was how she felt about it. But now, it's like, not only did the baby's mother get to have him back for a while, but she was getting paid by the princess to take care of her own son, essentially. With the idea that, I guess, once he was grown, he would be given up. Anyway, footnote about Moses. Sounds like a Hebrew term that means to lift out. But it was Pharaoh's daughter giving him the name. I guess because she knew he was Hebrew, she wanted to give him a Hebrew name. But then, like, wouldn't that make it all the more obvious what happened to her father? Like, I don't know. It kind of doesn't seem to make sense how her father would be okay with this. Unless her father was one of those, like, you know, yes, princess, you get whatever you want kind of people. Anyway. Moving along. Verse 11. Many years later, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his own people, the Hebrews, and he saw how hard they were forced to work. During his visit, he saw an Egyptian beating one of his fellow Hebrews. After looking in all directions to make sure no one was watching, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand. So, I mean, this is where, unlike what is shown and described in The Prince of Egypt, Moses was pretty well aware of the fact that he was born and even partially raised Hebrew, and that the Hebrews were actually his people. And so, like, you know, it made sense that it would bother him how poorly they were being treated. And it may or may not have been an accidental This makes it seem like he very much intentionally killed the Egyptian. Just saying. Anyway. Verse 13. The next day, when Moses went out to visit his people again, he saw two Hebrew men fighting. "Why are you beating up your friend?" Moses said to the one who had started the fight. The man replied, "Who appointed you to be our prince and judge? Are you going to kill me as you killed that Egyptian yesterday?" Then Moses was afraid, thinking, "Everyone knows what I did." And sure enough, Pharaoh heard what had happened, and he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in the land of Midian. When Moses arrived in Midian, he sat down beside a well. I'm going to stop there for a sec. So, okay, this has turned into, what did the Prince of Egypt get right and wrong? And I'm sorry about that, but it's like, that's a thing that many people know of and are aware of, but the comparisons here, I just can't help it. So, Moses did run away from Egypt because of killing somebody and, worries over other people knowing about it and, wanting to get revenge or something like that. But in this case, there was an actual attempt to kill Moses before he left. So it wasn't just him being all, like, emotionally confused and traumatized and all, like, I just killed somebody. I can't stay here. It was very much, fear for his own life. And it was not exactly immediate either. It was when he realized that other people knew about what he did. So, anyway, then he goes to Midian, and we pick up at verse 16. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters who came as usual to draw water and fill the water troughs for their father's flocks. But some other shepherds came and chased them away. So Moses jumped up and rescued the girls from the shepherds. Then he drew water for their flocks. Okay, so this is essentially Moses just being helpful here, or at least trying to help the women at the well he happened to find himself at. Verse 18. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked, "Why are you back so soon today?" "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds," they answered. "And then he drew water for us and watered our flocks." "Then where is he?" their father asked. "Why did you leave him there? Invite him to come and eat with us." So, I honestly forget how this all went down in The Prince of Egypt. I seem to recall it almost being more of a, like... well, I remember him fleeing Egypt and then just being in the middle of a sandstorm and kind of being like, okay, whatever, kind of like practically accepting death at that point, getting buried by the sand, and then, like, camel comes along and bites his hair thinking it's grass or something and pulls him out. But that was a little bit of creative liberty taken there, it seems. Although I think they also did include the whole, like, thing at the well where he was helping the women there. Just maybe not quite the way it's described here. But anyway, he helps them out, and they return to their father, and he, after hearing what happened, is like, well, bring him in. We get, like, he helped us out. We should return the favor, or at least, show him some gratitude. Anyway, verse 21. Moses accepted the invitation, and he settled there with him. In time, Reuel gave Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife. Later she gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, for he explained, "I have been a foreigner in a foreign land." Years passed, and the king of Egypt died, but the Israelites continued to groan under their burden of slavery. They cried out for help, and their cry rose up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. Okay, so Gershom sounds like a Hebrew term that means a foreigner there. Yeah, okay, because Moses was a foreigner. So yeah, he settles down in Midian and gets married, has a kid, and then God's like, okay, It doesn't say how many years passed, but Moses is involved in God's actions here, so clearly it's not like super long. But anyway, at some point God's like, yeah, these people, they're having a hard time down here. I did promise them a good land to live in. Might be about time to do something about that. Footnote there. Look down on the people of Israel and acknowledged his obligation to them is, I guess, the other translation or way of saying that verse, rather than he knew it was time to act. So anyway, I will say, God saying it's time to act there, I mean, I guess the whole acknowledged his obligation to them may hint at this a little bit less, but the way that it's worded here makes it sound almost like, you know, God maybe not forgot about, you know, the covenant, but at the very least wasn't, you know, directly, you know, involved in making that happen for a while. Or I'm not quite sure how to word what I'm thinking. But like it seems almost as if God was inactive regarding his covenant for at least a time. So like, I don't know, I don't mean to start a big debate here, but this is one of those things where, you know, I maybe question a little bit the all-knowing nature of God. Because if God was all-knowing, there would be no reason to even so much as imply that he forgot or was inactive on a certain thing. It would all be part of God's plan. But this makes it sound like, yeah, maybe this wasn't so much part of God's plan to bring his people to the promised land. But, I mean, with how much that they grew, how much their numbers grew in Egypt, it could also be fair enough to say that, you know, okay, he was executing the, you know, growing in numbers portion for a bit first before actually moving the people into the promised land. I guess that's sort of another possible way to think about it. And given what I said last time regarding, you know, people who are oppressed or, you know, dealing with hard times seeming to, you know, have their numbers grow the quickest, one could argue that maybe it was part of God's plan to act out his covenant, but again, this makes it seem almost like, yeah, maybe it wasn't. And God was just sort of, you know, disengaged from that for a while. I don't know. I'm not necessarily trying to say which is the better way of looking at it. I'm just saying those are possible ways to look at that. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this time around. My throat is also not agreeing with me at the moment. So, as always, like, share, subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff. Look down in the description for info on social media pages and all the different ways to interact. And, of course, leave comments down below all that with any thoughts you have. So yeah, that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next one. But until then, stay cool, people.